Welcome to Watch It or Don't. I'm Matt, here with Dan, and today we'll be doing a classic review of the movie Paper Moon.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. I don't know, Matt, this is new for you.
It was the first time I watched it.
Yes, but Paper Moon is 1973. It is directed by Peter Bogdanovich, which, if you're familiar with kind of the new Hollywood era 1970s cinema, he was kind of one of the big directors of the time, along with William Friedkin, Francis Ford Coppola, George Lucas. All those guys kind of came up together, and this was one of his later movies of that early period. He did Last Picture Show and What's Up Doc and some other ones in there too, but this is kind of his drama comedy set in the Great Depression.
I like it. I'm a big fan of con artist movies. That same year, 1973, you had The Sting.
Yeah, it's true.
And honestly, I like this. I wouldn't say as much because The Sting is maybe my favorite movie of all time, but it's a really good con artist film.
Yeah, so it takes place during the Depression. There's a man named Mose. He's a total con artist. He's selling Bibles to old widows and
good bit.
Making some pretty good money for the time, I have to say, during the Depression.
Right.
And he gets a hold of a young 9-year-old girl. Could be his daughter, we're not really sure.
No, it's not a spoiler. Trust me, at first I was like, you can't be saying that. But
right.
No.
But he has to try to drop this daughter off at a certain place, but she kind of tags along, and she's very precocious, and she ends up being pretty good at conning other people as well.
Almost as good as him.
Probably even better. It's got the childish charm.
Yes.
But they go together. They go through Kansas and Missouri, just kind of ripping off towns, and they get into some adventures. They meet up with Madeline Kahn.
Always good to see her.
Always good to see
Always
Madeline
brings
Kahn.
Comedy to the bleakest of Depression era films.
Yeah. And it's very touching in a way too. It's fun because it's a con artist who's
he's not a good guy.
He's shady, but he's charming. He's pretty harmless, you could say. And what I love about this movie so much is it feels like of its time. It feels like it was made in the 30s. It feels like a 1930s. It almost feels like it happened one night. I get that feeling of like Depression era drama comedy road.
And I don't think
picture.
we've mentioned it, but it is in black and white.
Yes, it is.
Which adds that touch as well.
Cinematographer Laszlo Kovacs, who did a lot of classic 70s films. There's some really nice black and white cinematography.
No, some of the framing in it, especially with like the lone dirt roads of Missouri, it's amazing.
Yeah, I think in 1970s there was kind of like this nostalgia for this bygone era of the 30s and 40s of this old Hollywood aesthetic, and that's kind of what it's tapping into. Like Bonnie and Clyde did it as well with the Depression era. Maybe some not quite gangsters, but people on the run a little bit.
Right, crime films.
Exactly. We should talk about the cast. We haven't talked about that yet. Mose is played by Ryan O'Neal, who was he's a pretty big actor at the time. He's maybe not as big as Robert Redford or Paul Newman.
And what's he really known for?
I mean, he's in Barry Lyndon. He plays Barry Lyndon. That's what I know him from best. But he's also in What's Up, Doc, another Bogdanovich film.
Okay.
And then Addie, the 9-year-old girl, is played by his daughter, Tatum O'Neal. And she won Best Supporting Actress for this. Youngest person to ever win it, and still holds the record. She was 10 years old when she won it.
Hard to peak at 10 years old.
It is. And it's also a little weird because she should not have been nominated for Best Supporting Actress because she is the lead of the movie.
No, she's in this just as much as he is. They're the two lead characters.
Probably more than him, almost.
Yeah.
In a way.
That is fair.
So that's a little category fraud, but I think she is deserving of it. She's really good in this.
No.
She can, put on that charm and con, someone at a gas station really quickly, but she's also, maybe longing for a family.
She's a deep character for a 9-year-old girl.
Really well. I'm always impressed with that. I've seen this movie probably, I think this is the third time I've seen it off and on, and it's so easy to watch and charming. It's just kind of fun and really heartfelt.
I don't really have any gripes with the film. I don't think there was anything. I mean, the pacing was good. I mean, they've got really not any long establishing shots that you would think of like for 70s like cinematography and trying to like wax poetic about the Depression, but it was like everything seemed pretty tight and it rolled pretty good.
Well, that's the thing about Bogdanovich is he's very similar to a lot of French New Wave directors, and French New Wave directors they were critics first. They they wrote for magazines and stuff, but they watched a lot of old American films, kind of got all they knew from that. They took the bits and pieces that they liked and kind of combined them into these mishmash French films. And Bogdanovich kind of does the same. He kind of takes these old American classics like John Ford, those kind of movies, and just takes, classic little tropes and puts them together and, This movie was actually based on a book I know, and I know when the book came out, they said it's kind of like a female version of Huck Finn, which kind of makes sense.
That's a good point.
It's like it's not necessarily like a linear plot of like here's the rising action, here's the climax. It's more of like they're gonna go from town to town and they have different little hijinks.
It's a fun adventure. The whole thing is.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like each little chapter is a little bit different, and they meet different people, and
yeah, you don't.
It does build, but it's
right.
less about the building than more like the journey, I guess. So
I would agree with that. What would you rate the film?
I give this a 9 out of 10. This is one of my favorites. I can always go back to it. It's funny. It's dramatic. There's some pretty good action little sequences in there for being a little movie like this, and I think it's well worth seeing.
So I'm honestly leaning towards 9 out of 10 as well, and I'm kind of surprised. My gut was kind of telling me 8, but there's really nothing I could think of that I didn't like about the film. Yeah. I mean, even how you said with the action, it's got more action than the 1930s movies sort of would. And it's funny, one of the differences is the language, which we kind of had joked about. The language is not your typical 1930s.
It's not bad, but there's a few words like they could not have gotten away with that in 1935.
No, I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I want to watch it again, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Yeah. So, watch Paper Moon. It's on Filmstruck right now. That's where we watched it.
That is where we watched it.
If you don't have Filmstruck, you should get it. It's a pretty great service.
I like it. They've got Criterion and TCM.
Yeah, just a lot of random classic movies. And there's a lot of Bogdanovich on there right now. And I'd say watch all of his stuff, especially his early stuff. His later stuff isn't great.
Okay.
But he did have a good run from like 67 to like 74 where it was like, he's putting out good stuff. So.
Okay. Well, there you have it. Thanks for watching. This is Watch It or Don't. Be sure to link and subscribe. Leave a comment if there's a movie you think we should review.
Yeah.
And as always, thanks for watching.